This is a constant question from folk. Is there a spell that you can use to become a werewolf? I must get asked it at least 3 or 4 times a week. I've even been offered a large amount of cash to change people. Hey, I get it. Being a werewolf is the best thing ever. The answer is, I don't really know. I know how the original werewolves were made. Well, I know how my tribe was created, but I really do not know how to recreate that situation. The more I listen to you guys, the more I believe that there is more than one tribe of werewolves out there. Never mind these, dogmen things. What the fuck are those? Who the fuck's that guy? Oh, if you can, buy me a coffee. You can do that by following the support the show link in the descriptor. I appreciate good coffee. Mine is a flat white in particular. Thanks to those who show their appreciation. To those who don't, oh well. The werewolves were created hundreds, maybe a couple of thousand years ago. We're not really sure. It was done in a huge, let us say, shamanistic rite in the Ural Mountains in a megalith that had been built just for an occasion like this. I like this word megalith. It sounds like it should be a really technological thing. Well, to be honest, they were the ultimate technology at the time. This one was a phone line to the gods. See, we've not got that technology yet, except with the right drugs, maybe, Fen does not remember much about the time, but the sky had been blackened for several months. The sun was not seen in the day, and the cold was of a very different level than the mountains typically gave. Looking back on the descriptor, we may be able to link this time to a massive volcanic event that happened in Yellowstone, America, where enough ash, dust and rock were thrown into the sky that the sun was blotted out for several months. This would have been an unprecedented event that would have been, massive on the consequences on the world's climate for a short period, maybe not so short. With plants not growing, then things that relied on those plants would starve. The things that relied on those things that starved would starve. Obviously, the people of the day had no idea what was happening on the other side of the world. All they knew was that the sun was gone and the feed for the reindeer was gone. The lichen and available bark had been eaten, and now not only had many deer not reproduced, but they'd also starved or even frozen to death in the night. Do you know how cold it must be for a herd of reindeer to freeze to death? Yeah, you're right. Really fucking cold. The people were absolutely at the end. Death was around the corner for the entire tribe of humans. I mean, it was all over. Do you get it? It was the end. Proper. They turned to their religion, which was, let us say, shamanistic. Their faith was based on nature and the spirits of all that surrounded them. You know, that pagan shite that does not make sense to you Abrahamic religionist folks. It was led by a, shall we say, high priest. He, shall we say, decided to communicate with the spirit world and, shall we say, ask what could be done. Things were grim for both the wolf pack and the human pack. The litters of pups that year had been lost, as the females had ran dry due to starvation. No milk, no puppies. The wolves had also suffered as their natural prey species had been hit hard. Their populations had crashed. It was looking a bit shite for both of our teams. Something had to be done, or wolves and people would be lost. Come on, Team Wolf. Come on, Team People. They were enemies most of the time, but sometimes you must join with your enemies to survive. The humans had caught one of the wolves the day before, and it had been ready for tonight's meal. The shaman decided that they would make the rite of the mushroom. It sounds cooler in their ancient language, I'm sure, but this is what it translates to, The ritual of the mushroom. You can see where we're going here, can you? Can you? The rites of the bloody mushroom. Fly agarics are found in most North European pine forests. You probably would recognise these mushrooms. They are the mushrooms that we see the fairies and the gnomes live in and dance around. You know, the red ones with the little white spots. Why are there fairy tale creatures around these particular mushrooms? Have you ever thought about that? Well, probably not until now. Or maybe you have. Hey, what do I know? Fly agarics are really powerful hallucinogenic mushrooms. Now we have ideas of how hallucinogenics work, that the brain is stimulated by chemicals to imagine the unreal. Our brain is supposed to imagine the things we see on the trip per se. Now, that is a bit strange, because if we look at what people see when they do the different hallucinogens, they tend to imagine very similar things when they do the same hallucinogenic drug. When you do ayahuasca, you see the jungle spirits, the panthers and the creatures that we find there. Maybe this is due to the way that you're led by the shamans who run the show. Maybe they sort of put a spin on it so you see their tradition. Or perhaps they tap into a specific part of nature. That drug from that place brings you into a spiritual world in which those spirits are found. If you believe in that spiritual thing, well, I do, because I've got a wolf soul that I live with, so I can honestly say I might believe in that shit. Dimethyltryptamine, DMT, gives you a spiritual journey into yourself. I know. What the fuck does that mean? The best way to learn about it is to do it. When you do DMT, you go into another deep, geometric world where the spirits are your thoughts. You enter your deeper self, and your world is torn apart and rebuilt by you. It changed me massively. I realised I was a psychotic monster, and that being a psychotic monster is actually okay. Well, on Fly agarics, you get the spirits of the North Woodlands. You commune with the souls of the beasts and the plants that live there. The fairy realm, spelt with an E, is open to you. Fucking pixies and shit. Is it possible that these hallucinogens allow you now to interact with other realms? I know it sniffs of bullshit. I know, but we don't know. And it would be proper cool if it were the truth. It is possible that fly agaric mushrooms were the soma that was spoke about before in Indian history. Soma was a moon god, a related plant, and a holy brew, which were also worshipped in the Indus Valley long before Christ put his feet upon the planet. Fly agaric fits many of the Vedic references as a substance with which to contact the gods. This may be the way to talk to God. Gods or some shit like that. Who the fuck knows? So you get the idea that this stuff may just be a fun trip, or it may be a way to dial up the local spirits and gods and speak with them by phone. Either way, the outcome for people can be both extraordinary and not so wonderful. Hey, but I don't care if you have a good or bad trip, or speak to God, or whatever. Let us get back to the shamanic rites. The shaman, let's not give him some culturally appropriated name. Let's call him Dave. Dave the shaman. He turned to the people and said the only way we would find an answer was to go and commune with the spirits of the wild. Now in this day and age, we would not be so convinced that this was the way forward. But if you were starving, cold and miserable, maybe you would give this trip thing a go. If you're not very religious, this will be difficult to make sense of, but I find that even the most un-God-bothering type individuals will try and pray when life gets shit. So Dave, God's bless him, suggests the whole of the tribe take a huge big combined trip and try and listen to the spirits to see if there is any way out of this winter wonderland bullshit that they're all going to die in. They all go up to a big particular cave thing that they built to do this communing to God thing. They call them megaliths. This was a pretty cool place. It had like big stone menhirs, whatever they are, and all that other ancient Neolithic stuff that gets those historians and archaeologists hard. Now, Fly agarics contain two drugs that cause the effects that they produce. The drugs are ibotenic acid and muscimol. They are some kind of GABA thing. I don't know the chemistry. These are pretty poisonous things, so the mushroom has to be dealt with so they can use it. It has to be processed somehow, and strangely in this area of the world, it was done by drinking the piss of a creature that had eaten it. Sometimes this would be the shaman himself, or he would use another animal. Usually it would be a reindeer. Now Dave was getting on a bit, so he probably would not do so well if he was used for the processing. So what did they have to hand that could be used to process the mushrooms? Did they have any reindeer? No. That is right. They had the wolf. Yeah, you get it now. They used the crazy wolf to process the mushrooms so they could drink its wee-wee. Now, weirdly, these mushrooms can also be processed just by simply drying them. That seems a lot simpler to me than the whole wee thing, but hey, each to their own. I have often wondered why on earth anyone drank piss to get high. It's a bit strange. I mean, I know there are those people who have a slight like of urine, both being weed on and drinking it, but most of us realise that it is a waste product and that we shouldn't drink it. Hey, I'm not knocking those kinky beasts who like the wee. That's your own thing. Enjoy it. So the wolf urine gave everyone a shared hallucination where they melded minds, Vulcan style, with the local pack of wolves. It wasn't doing so well in the inclement minus 54 degrees centigrade that it was at the time. The humans during this shared trip came to some kind of deal where the wolves would give their spirits to the people, and having done so, both packs would survive the winter in a new strange combination. So by some shamanic magic thing, the wolves released their posits, their souls, so they could combine with the humans and become a joint force for their survival. The posits are the souls of the wolf. Yeah, I think that is what you would kinda call it. A wolf's soul is released from a wolf that would then join a human. The deal seemed a bit one-sided to me at first for the humans. The wolves once contacted came down to the sacred spot thing, and after a mental chat, which must have been really fucking weird and awkward, can you imagine the people and the wolves all sitting around each other like a chanting circle? I'll just give you a moment to imagine that. Did you imagine it? It's pretty fucking cool, isn't it? The wolves were sacrificed then in a very bloody shamanic proper religious rite. The creature spirits chose a human host for the humans on the day. In order for the human and the wolf soul to combine, the human would have to eat the heart of the wolf that chose the human. Yeah, I don't know why, it's just one of them proper magical things, innit? If you're eating raw heart, I mean, humans find eating raw meat a challenge anyway, so... Then there was a big feast, mostly of wolves, with a side order of wolves and wolf to follow. They may have had a cheese board at the end, who knows? Maybe even an eaten mess, though I doubt it. The chosen humans all lived extraordinary lives, and some of them are still living extraordinary lives. They also ate the other members of their tribe quite soon after. Why not? They weren't werewolves, were they? The werewolf tribe then survived, not by murdering huge numbers of people and doing awful things, but just because they could survive. Well, they did a lot of murdering and stuff, to be honest, like killing other tribes off and things. It seemed a little unfair that the wolves sacrificed themselves, huh? But the posit told me how they worked it out between them. The wolf spirit would become immortal, while the human would stay under the control of the posit. If the posit wanted to stay with the human, then the human would be timeless too. They would age to the point that the posit felt comfy, then be that age until the posit wanted out of the relationship. It may have been the wolf's age in dog years or wolf years or some such thing, who knows. The posits were independent but able to bind with a human when needed, or if it was a full moon, when for some reason they had no choice. They could be entirely independent if they wished. But this would mean a lonely life. Being immortal would be pretty cool though, eh? When they moved on, because I'm sure it's pretty dull to be with one person for all eternity, they tried to take on humans from the same tribe, but would have to be careful with whom they chose. Oh shit, I'm not knocking those forever relationships like marriage. Well, kind of am, because that must be really boring. Imagine shagging the same person. Anyway, deposits would then be passed on from human to human for all time. Not a bad deal when you think about it in those terms. So happily, the wolves and the humans worked it out, and the human band survived and became the first tribe of werewolves ever. It's a remarkable story. I don't know how true it is, but it sounds like it could have happened. Maybe it could be science, it could be magic, it could be bollocks, I'm not sure. Deposits could always move on and find a fresh person that had some relation to the first members of that tribe when they wanted to. I suppose we would talk about something related to them finding the DNA of their ancestors these days. Something like that. Deposit would also find the best human mind to match their own. This would mean that the relationship would be more likely to be successful. Once bound to a human, the deposit could leave them if they wanted, so they would often bounce around from person to person until they found a particular individual they liked, and someone who could mentally deal with the idea that they'd just been linked with a spirit wolf. As you can probably guess, not many people can deal with that. Most people think that they've got, a psychotic episode or something. Once the deposit left the human would start to age again. I know, it's magic. I don't get it either. So what I'm trying to put across here, well, I've heard that lots of people want to be werewolves. I get it. Your lives are tough, and being a wolf beast would improve that. It would, to be honest. In fact, I think it would enhance anyone's life that links with a deposit of one of those wolves from the past. This is where I tell you that if you want to be a werewolf, it isn't done by magic these days. I'm not sure if more magic can be done to make more werewolves or not. Maybe there are more of those out there. I wouldn't be surprised to hear it myself. I can only speak from my own experience. There are only 74 werewolf souls from the original tribe. Most of them are linked to humans already, so it is doubtful that you'll find a free one to join you. Also, they tend to stay within their original region and are primarily found in Surgut City in Russia. Being away from the homeland makes me a rarity in the werewolf world. That is an entire story in itself on how Fen ended up here. I'm so sorry, but I've no idea how you can become werewolfic. So as far as I'm aware, there's no magical spell. So stop asking. Although I do love you. Bye.